Yo guys, what's up? It's your boy Vert, and today we are going to be diving into the PvP world of Succession Hash. This is going to be our first video of mini PvP guides that I will be releasing. In today's video, we're going to cover my add-ons, self-buffs, catches, and comboing. As always, be sure to like the video and let me know in the comments section what other videos that you guys would like to see. That being said, let's get it going, baby. Woo! Alright guys, for the first part of our video here, we're going to go over our add-ons. I typically use these for both 1v1 and large scale. Some of the add-ons are definitely more 1v1 focused, while you have add-ons like Quicksand and Descent, which are going to come in handy for the large scale. You know, they're protected, pretty hard hitting, and they're going to help buff you up just overall. So looking at the first one here, we have Sand Slicer. On Sand Slicer, I went with attack speed and minus evasion. Sand Slicer is going to be one of your best tools right after catching someone with Air Assault. So it's nice to get that bonus attack speed on top of the attack speed that the skill already has on it. Next is going to be Shadow Splitter. Again, Shadow Splitter more of a 1v1 add-on and a lot of like self-buff and pre-buffing for your combo. And this is going to be 10 PvP damage and 20% crit hit rate. Next up is going to be Ridge Reaver. Ridge Reaver is kind of both a 1v1 skill and a large scale skill, and the fact that it's protected, it's fast damage. On this, I just have accuracy plus 3% and evasion minus 3% just to help get your hit rate that much higher. Next up, and this is kind of the add-on that you can mess with, or if you have something that you prefer in your combo, Quicksand is kind of the optional add-on here in my opinion. Personally, I went with more self-buffing with the 20% crit hit rate and 7% attack speed. And essentially what that's going to allow you to do is at any point, you know, you're kiting someone out, you're in a GVG, you're an RBF. Essentially anyone you hit with Quicksand, you know, using the nice mouse to move is going to give you these self buffs, which is only going to help you to further combo and play around the ball or 1v1 someone, etc. So really nice self buffs on Quicksand here. Moving on to Descent. Descent is your heavy hitter, your big nuke. On this, I went with the 15 PvP damage just to, you know, push the damage a little bit higher, and the minus 5% evasion. Since it is a T3 add-on, being able to shred 5% evasion is incredibly powerful against a lot of endgame players as well as early evasion building players. Then the last one we're going to go with is Dune Slash. I feel like this is absolutely crucial. Dune Slash, one of your best shred skills, one of your best re-CC skills. On this, I added negative 15 DP and 3% crit hit damage. So not only are you getting the bonus shred on top of what Dune Slash already provides, but then everything else that you follow up with, including Descent, which has the 100% crit rate, will get the 3% increased damage from the critical hit damage. All right, guys, in this next part, we're going to talk about the skill build. So this is something that a lot of players have come to me. They said, hey, Vert, you know, I've been living at Polly's Forest for 374 days in a row. I still feel like I don't have enough points for hash. You know, what should I spec into? And so for this skill build, I went ahead and I did a build for 1693 skill points. I feel like around 1700-ish is how many skill points you should grind out before, you know, really getting into PvP or getting into some more endgame PvE. And so I put together a little skill build for around 1700-ish, and this will be in the description down below, but we're going to go over it real quick. I picked up level 3 Rupture. Rupture is very good. If you could pick up the Absolute, it's going to put you at 1709, but Rupture is incredibly good damage, and there's a lot of cancels to go into Rupture for PvP. Next up, I have Shadow Splitter. Prime Shadow Splitter is really useful for some cancels with Succession and also for the debuffs and the add-ons that we have. Prime Sand Slicer level 3. Purge at level 3, great catch tool. Ridge Reaver, again, kind of your bread and butter. Super armor, good damage, good add-ons. For this, I did Hourglass of Death, the Absolute. This is going to give you the 20 AP, whether or not you hit a target, so very good for self-buffing and maneuvering around the battlefield. Chosen Blade, I have level 4. This one for PvP, you're typically only going to use this in 1v1 scenarios. It's kind of a death wish if you pop it in anything higher than 1v1s, unless you really isolate your target. So this possibly could be adjusted, and you could put points maybe into Sand Divider for the self-buffing and the accuracy buff that this gives you. So if you want to swap this with Sand Divider, you definitely can. Go for it. All's Breath, the Succession, incredibly useful, very, very strong, must have. Quicksand, another tool, as well as the Flow that's going to give you the incredibly good debuffs on your opponent. Very, very strong. Then we have Descent, of course, our nuke. Gonna pick up our E-buff, our Dune Slash, our Binding Spirals. Very good tools, all 3 of these abilities. We got 1 point in Hourglass of Defiance just for the added mobility. We have level 2 Holiday Throw, Arid Assault. Of course, you want Arid Assault, very strong. Owl's Dominion, another incredibly hard-hitting skill, so make sure you pick that up. Then we have Mirage. Again, great tool for counterplay, essentially a parry. We have Prime Sandwarp and Ultimate Sandwarp. Ultimate Sandwarp, I believe you get regardless, but Prime Sandwarp gives you that second dash. Then heading down in your passives, we have Infinite Mastery, Skilled Hunter. We have points into this. Again, since it's PvP only, you could drop these 12 points, put them elsewhere, or if you just don't have enough, you could drop it all together. I have level 10 of the passive. Level 11 you get at level 63. So I'm assuming that you're not 63 yet. If you are, of course, 3 more points, pick up that last point. Then we have Savior of the Sands, again the passive, and the prime version of it to get the bonus accuracy. And then we have Prime Seer of Sands, and this is going to give you that 5% ignore all resist. All right, guys, in this portion of the video, I'm going to talk quickly just about my UI setup and why I chose to have these skills on my UI. Of course, you can set up the design of your UI or the skills on your UI in any shape or order that you want. This is just my preference and what I chose. The reason why this is so important is because of our longer cooldowns and, being able to keep protection up as well as stamina management is incredibly important on hash. Okay, what I see a lot of hashes do is they'll miscalculate a cooldown, and essentially that leads to you either running in place, not dashing correctly, not comboing correctly, and this is where you get CC'd and end up on your butt and a lot of the times dead. So this is incredibly important to have. So real quick, just gonna go over my UI. Quick slot 1, I have Binding Spirals. Quick slot 2, All's Breath. Quick slot 3 is going to be our Blade Pact, which is our E-buff or Siege buff, whatever you want to call it. 4 is going to be Shadow Slicer, which is going to be our third bomb. Heading back up here to our actual skill cooldown slots, I have Dune Slash, Holiday Assault, Arid Assault, Mirage Assault, Prophecy Blade, Quicksand, Descent, Ridge Reaver, Purge, and the last one's going to be Chosen Blade. I feel like all these cooldowns are extremely important to keep track of. One additional add-on that you could put onto your UI would be your Prime Dash. It's important to know when you only have 1 or when you have 2 dashes for cancels and weaving abilities in between your normal dash and your Succession dash. In this portion of the video, guys, we're going to cover the self buffs that I think are imperative to keep up almost 100% of the time if possible. So the first one I'm going to show you is going to be Sand Divider into Sand Slicer. It's just going to look like this. A little SF into your LMB, very quick. And it's going to help keep your accuracy of 9% and your attack speed of 10% up. This is going to help you combo faster and more efficiently with the higher hit rate. The other 2 abilities that I recommend you try and keep up if you can and when you can is going to be your dash, of course, having that 6% evasion. It's going to scale really nicely if you are running evasion. Even if you're not, it's important to stay mobile and keep that buff up. Then the last one we're going to talk about is going to be your AP buff. You can get this one of 2 ways. Typically, I recommend Hourglass, as you don't need to connect it with anything. As soon as you hit Shift F, it's going to give you the 20 AP buff before you do anything with it. So you don't actually have to hit a person or hit a mob or, you know, etc. Then the last one is going to be Holiday Throw, which also gives you the 20 AP buff. This is going to be a little bit more dangerous as it's not protected, but that's also going to give you the 20 AP buff. And that's just something to weave in, you know, between combos. If you see someone from a distance and you can just kind of hit them with it to keep the AP buff up, you know, it's important to do. But same thing with the Sand Divider and Sand Slicer, is just make sure you're doing your best to pre-buff outside of the combat area. You know, you don't want to be right next to your opponent, pre-buff, get CC'd and die, you know, trying to get these add-ons up. The add-ons are important and they are strong, but it's not worth risking your life over them. All right, in this part of the video, we're going to cover the catches that Succession Hash has. Now, everybody knows Hash as the block jump class. I feel like it's pretty popular that we're called that, and for good reason. Air Assault is going to be one of your most powerful tools, and it can be used almost across the battlefield, borderline render range. Incredibly powerful. As you know, that's just going to be your E, and it's going to float your opponent. Now, you can also cast Air Assault when it's not on cooldown, as long as you have an AP buff up, and it's going to do the same thing. Now, the next catch we're going to talk about is going to be Binding Spirals. Binding Spirals, I talked about this a little bit in our movement and cancels and tip video, but there's two different ways to use Binding Spirals. So the classical way, or the normal way that most people cast Binding Spirals, is just going to be looking at your opponent and casting it. As the tornadoes come together, they do damage and they'll CC your target. What you can do to improve Binding Spirals to make it an even more powerful tool than what it already is instead of aiming directly at your opponent, aim down and to the right a little bit, cast Binding Spirals, and as you saw, the first tornado will spawn directly behind your opponent. This gives them little to no time to react and will give you a CC from a pretty good distance without putting yourself in harm. The next one we're going to talk about is going to be Purge. Purge has an extremely long range and a decent sized AoE. This is going to be very good, but one thing to mention is it is unprotected, similar to Air Assault and Binding Spirals that we already talked about. To limit the amount of time that you're exposed, just weave it between a dash. So dash, purge, dash again. You're going to be unprotected for about a quarter of a second in between there, but that's about the best you can do to make sure you stay unprotected for a little amount of time as possible. The next catch we're going to talk about is going to be Quicksand. Quicksand is your only protected CC. Now, the catch to this is that it doesn't CC right off the bat. You have to wait till the very last tick of the ability, but you are protected the entire time. So using the click to move is going to be very powerful. It allows you to catch someone. You know, if you start casting Quicksand here, your opponent moves to the right or to the left of you, or if you're fighting those pesky Sorcs and they're kiting behind you, you can always last second turn your Quicksand, get the knockdown behind you. And it is a really powerful tool. Very good catch. And if you do get the knockdown, it gives you so much time to work with to lead into your next combo. The last catch we're going to talk about here is going to be Shadow Slicer into Rupture. So Rupture in general is a powerful tool. There's a couple different ways to cast it, but most ways leave you unprotected for a very long time. One of my favorite ways to use it is after the Rabam Shadow Slicer, and that's going to look like this. This allows you to not only cover a great distance, but you can also use it as a baiting mechanic. It's a way to get around people's blocks if you Rabam to the side of them, or if you're getting chased. Basically, all you have to do is use your Rabam Shadow Slicer, and then you Rupture in whichever direction your camera's facing. So let's say this opponent's chasing you, and you Rabam, and then Rupture backwards. It's going to give you that nice catch potential. You know, a lot of people chasing you don't expect a fast CC to come off backwards like that, and that can lead to a lot of kills. For some more advanced catches, you can use Dune Slash and Mirage. So the first one we're going to talk about is Dune Slash. And Dune Slash is a very powerful catch, and it's on a low cooldown. But the reason I put this under advanced catches is because you do have to go melee range with it, and it's unprotected. So you need to be quick with it. Again, we could do the similar approach to Purge, where you dash, hit C, dash out of it. It's going to leave you unprotected for the minimal amount of time. But this is kind of where class knowledge comes into play. You don't want to be using Dune Slash into any protected CCs. You don't want to be using it into most protections at all because it can be punished. So knowing your class and knowing your opponent, Dune Slash can be a very viable tool, but you just need to be careful with it. Then the last one we're going to talk about is going to be Mirage. And Mirage is going to be your parry. It's on your SQ. It's going to be on a short cooldown. Essentially, what Mirage can do for you is it provides you with another block jump, and this block jump is going to be super armor, and if the target that hits you is unprotected, it's going to apply a stun to that target as well. So this could be great in a pinch. This can be good for 1vxing, 1v1s. It's all about the timing though. Getting the timing down on Mirage can be a little tricky at first, but when pulled off and when utilized correctly, it's one of your greatest abilities. All right, the last part of this video that we're going to talk about is comboing. So we just talked about the catches, and now I'm going to teach you guys how to combo off the previous catches that I just showed you. The first one is going to be your air to salt combo. This is pretty much specifically for 1v1s, or if you catch someone isolated in a GVG, Nodewar, etc. It has a lot of unprotected abilities, and therefore you don't want to be using it, in the main ball or even around other players. This combo, shout out to Beast Guy, is trademarked as the Beast combo, and it's going to look like this. I'm going to have the combo on the side. Feel free to rewind and slow down the video, but I'm just going to show it in normal speed for you guys. All right, so what this combo does that's just so incredibly powerful is you are debuffing your enemy in almost every way possible while self-buffing yourself with almost every add-on in your kit. On top of that, you're going to utilize one of Hash's greatest tools, which is his air attack damage. The air attack damage that you get from Ridge Reaver and Dune Slash off this combo is so incredibly powerful. I'm talking one comboing 400 DP. I'm talking one comboing 500 DP. I'm talking one comboing 1000 DP. No, but I mean, realistically, around 400 to 450 DP, if comboed correctly, you'll be able to delete them with this combo. All right, the next comboing we're going to talk about is going to be comboing off of Binding Spirals. So as I showed you guys earlier, you want to aim down into that right, get the instant stiff, and now you have a couple different options in which you can approach. So the first approach, you can just go straight into the air to salt combo that I showed you guys earlier. You're still able to do most of the combo. Just be careful with CC capping your opponent with that second stiff. The next combo off of Binding Spirals is just going to be a very simple dash into Purge and then canceling Rupture out of Purge. And that's just going to look like this. You're going to Binding Spirals, dash, Purge, Rupture, and that Rupture is going to give you your last CC, and it's going to CC cap them. But the damage from Rupture is easily worth it, and you can use your following dash to dash in, maybe do a Sand Slicer, Dominion, Descent. So if I'm comboing someone with Binding Spirals, it's going to look something like this. Once again, if you guys need to, rewind the video, slow down the video, break it down, and perfect it. One last combo out of Binding Spirals. If you don't want to do the Purge into the Rupture combo, which I think is one of our best combos just from range, you can get a little more up close and personal, and you'll be able to get the air attack damage off that I showed you in the first combo, and that's going to look like this. So that's going to allow you to get that float using Dominion once you're up close and personal. And then you'll use Ridge Reaver and Dune Slash, followed by Descent, as you'll get the air attack damage from Ridge Reaver and Dune Slash. And then Descent is almost always your go-to at the end of the combo if you can squeeze it in, as it's protected damage and insanely hard hitting. All right, the last catch I'm going to talk about here is going to be catches off Quicksand. So if you land Quicksand on an opponent, it's going to give you a lot of time, as Quicksand is a knockdown. And so there's a couple little cool tricks that you can do to pre-buff after that happens. So let's say you Quicksand, you catch someone, you can pre-buff your attack speed, do a little Holiday Assault for the DP debuff, and then go into whatever combo you want at the end of that. Typically, again, hitting the Dominion into the Ridge Reaver, into the Dune Slash for that air attack damage is going to be great. And then you could follow that with the Dash Descent to finish the combo. Quicksand gives you a lot of time to get those additional buffs in there. You can do either the DP Shred from Holiday Assault, you could do your pre-buff, your SF, and then go into your combo, but it gives you a lot of options. And of course, as always, you can extend the CC by doing a Holiday Throw. That's going to get them in that stiff animation, put them back on their feet, ready to be hit by your bread and butter combo. Now, I just want to talk about this one last time because it is extremely important to utilize the air attack from Hash's kit. What this essentially means is if you are in a situation where you have time to set up this combo, you should almost always re-stiff your opponent after the first CC, go into Dominion, then get the Ridge Reaver, Dune Slash, dash into Descent. This is always going to be phenomenal damage in a combo. So that's going to look like this. You're going to re-stiff, float, get the air attack, dash, Descent. Boom. They're dead. You're winning. Best Hash on the server. Well done. Well done, mate. Give yourself a pat on the back after you practice these combos for a couple hours in the battle arena. All right? You deserve it. You're a Hash god. Hash gang, baby. All right, guys, that's going to do it for our video today. Once again, thank you guys so much for all the support, both on the Twitch channel and the YouTube. Our YouTube has been popping off, and I can only thank you guys so much for that. So I appreciate it. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Also, drop a comment down below if there's anything that I missed or anything you guys want to see for the next PvP video. Some other things we're going to cover in the future are going to be large-scale fighting, how to stay protected. We're going to do a Nodewar or an RBF and kind of slow it down, break it down for you, and explain my decision making. And hopefully all these tips and tricks and tools will help you guys become a Hash god. That being said, I'm out. Peace.